Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Ask Guillem, the first one of the season, actually. So I hope you're all been well, and I hope everybody around you is well as well. So there's a Clasico coming up. There's, of course, Champions League as well. But I think we have to frame the Clasico and do so by explaining how both teams arrived to it at this point. Then on Friday, I probably will do a YouTube live, and then Saturday an Insta live in the morning with another YouTube live at the end of the game after I've done all the work that I have to do, and discuss with you what I felt about the Clásico. I'm in Barcelona right now. It's where the Clásico will take place. And it is, as usual, the game of the century, but certainly I think you will all agree it doesn't feel like that at all at the moment. But as I say, we'll go through it. I've got a few questions as well from you. But before all that, I've seen that Arsene Wenger has got a new book out, and I promise you I will read it at some point. It doesn't matter what kind of reviews are coming out of it, but it's somebody telling a story. Maybe not the full story, maybe not all the details that we would like, maybe no Mourinho in it. Can't believe it. But in any case, it's Arsene Wenger talking, and when he does talk, you have to listen. So he did say one thing in the interviews he's given to promote the book that intrigued me. He said that twice he said no to Real Madrid. And I knew of 3 times where the possibility of him going to Real Madrid was there, but it did not happen. So I started inquiring presidents of Real Madrid, directors of football of Real Madrid, and even I asked Arsene Wenger himself. This is what I've come out with, and it's quite an interesting chronology. As I say, this is not, there are no photos of it, nobody can confirm certain dates, but between all of us, we have to come out with a bit of a, as I said, chronology of the interest and the filtrations of Real Madrid with Arsene Wenger, and sometimes the other way around. So, in 1998, with Lorenzo Sanz as president, after the double, he wanted to bring Arsene Wenger at a time where really the Premier League was not, or didn't have the huge interest that it's got now, and the relevance even, but still he felt that he would represent Real Madrid really well, and he thought about it, but there was no offer. There was interest, that is, there was a call to the agent, didn't go much further than that, but according to my sources, my Real Madrid sources, Arsene Wenger knew about it, but nothing happened. Then in 2002, I've been told that the day before the Champions League final, the Glasgow Champions League final, with Del Bosque in charge, of course, a Champions League final that Real Madrid ended up winning, Arsene Wenger was approached. I don't know if there was a meeting, there was conversations, there was a possibility of going to Real Madrid, but again, nothing happened. Why? Because it has always been very difficult, obviously, now in hindsight we can see that, to get him out of Arsenal. He controls the club in a way that he wouldn't have been able to control Real Madrid, not at all. But the reason why Real Madrid approached him that year is because Real Madrid had ended up 3rd in the table, behind Valencia that won the league and Deportivo that won the league, and Valencia that were 2nd. Then in 2003, one of those 2 that he mentions took place. This is, of course, the year of the Invincibles, 2003 to 2004. So it is the summer before the Invincibles happened. And Jorge Valdano went to England and Paris to talk to Arsene Wenger. And he showed a lot of interest. And he asked for a week to take his decision. But Valdano left more the second meeting than the first, thinking he's not going to come. He's just, you cannot get him out of there. But anyway, that week happened, and of course it was a no. And as I say, Real Madrid got Carlos Queiroz in charge, who was the rival of David Beckham, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, and Arsenal ended up being the Invincibles that season. Then, 3 years later, in 2006, there were elections, and Villar-Mir, one of the candidates, always said that he had convinced Arsene Wenger to come to Real Madrid if he had won the elections, which he didn't. Florentino Perez did. So Arsene Wenger is right in saying that twice he said no to Real Madrid. We already mentioned one, but there were 3 times that I knew of. This was another one, 2006, in which he could have come to Real Madrid. I think in that occasion he may have said yes, because Villar-Mir always said, if I win the elections, Arsene Wenger is my manager. So you have to get an agreement of some kind to be able to say that in elections. Finally, the second time that he said no to Florentino Perez, maybe he relates Florentino Perez to Real Madrid. Certainly, in 2003, the president was Florentino Perez. In 2009, the same. There were contacts. It was a no, and Pellegrini was the man in charge that was given the job. So I thought I'd share that with you. It was quite interesting to find out about it, because what a lot of them say is like, I don't remember the detail of it. And in some cases it may be true. In other cases it may be like, it's just that if I tell you what happened, the guy that was in charge may be a little bit upset. But that's football, isn't it? It's how it goes. Let's go to your questions. One is from Leo saying, what is the latest with the vote of no confidence referendum? Is it true that if it goes ahead and the board is talking about Barcelona, of course, and the board is removed from governing, they will be exempt from the financial responsibility? Such a complex situation. But let's see how we can put it simply. The vote of no confidence have gone ahead, or will go ahead, because they got, I think it's 16,521 signatures of season ticket holders. In fact, they got much more than that. That was the limit. They had to pass that, and they did pass that. It was 19,000 or something. So now Barcelona has to call up that vote of no confidence. There has to be a referendum where season ticket holders can vote, and 66% of them have to say, we disagree with Bartomeu, he has to go. Imagine that he doesn't go. There are elections in March anyway, and basically he is responsible for the accounts for the whole mandate, for the 4 years of the mandate, not only this season that he would have fulfilled fully, but also the previous 3 seasons. And they're saying from Barcelona that they've got a 200 million in the black, if you like, which means that unless they commit the mistakes, enough mistakes to have 200 million on the red just this year, they should be fine. The social responsibility for a football club like Barcelona means that if you actually end up your financial mandate, or you mandate the financial situation in the red, you have to put money from your own pocket, or you can be taken to court and you have to just pay the difference. The board has to pay the difference. As I say, it's complicated. Anyway, if the vote of no confidence succeeds, basically he will have to leave, Bartomeu, and the new board will be responsible for the rest of the season, as well as Bartomeu. And then is when it becomes even more complicated because of the pandemic. The government may actually decide that clubs like Barcelona don't have that social responsibility, that because there is at least 200 million that will not come into Barcelona that were budgeted, they may actually release that, easen that rule a little bit. But if not, the new people coming in may actually just do an audit and blame Bartomeu, if there are debts, for those debts. And then, as I say, it becomes more complicated because they've also been in charge of the club for a period within this season. Have I bored you enough? Are you still there? Anyway, complicated, but what it sounds like is that this social movement to get Bartomeu out has succeeded. And even if he goes in March, or if he goes in, some will say if he goes in March, he wouldn't have succeeded. But certainly there is a discontent that has raised a voice, and Bartomeu has acted as he always does, letting things pass. And he wants to stay until the end of his mandate if he can. He wants to delay the vote for the vote of no confidence. We will see. Complicated, as I said. And also to add salt to injury, salt to the wound. Of course, the Barcelona players, there is a meeting with representatives of the workers at Barcelona, I think it's Wednesday, and the Barcelona players have said we have to be treated differently because they have different kind of contracts, and we're not going to go to that meeting. That's the meeting which Barcelona want to reduce, ask everybody to reduce the wages. In the case of the players, at least, they've been saying, we're not taking money off you, we're just saying, we'll take it off you now, but we'll pay you back. And Barcelona fans players at the moment do not accept that. But having said that, there are some that have not signed the letter that went to Bartomeu, telling the story that I've just told you about not wanting to agree a deferral of those wages. Anyway, as you can see, there's always an institutional crisis or on the verge of it at the top clubs in Spain. Just quickly, Richie saying, what do you put the recent form of Betis down to? Made a vast improvement from last season. Did they, though? Because is now 3 victories, 3 defeats. This is a club that is in the last chance saloon, because they need to really make an impact this season with the squad that they've got and with Manuel Pellegrini, because if they don't, they won't be able to maintain these wages, this expenditure in wages. And players will go at the end of the season unless they are in the Champions League or in Europe, and that guarantees more money coming in. So last chance saloon. And to be honest, they showed against Real Sociedad that they're not at that level that they should be fighting for, really, because of the name, not because of what they've done in recent years. So, okay. 2 questions from the Clasico, one from Wayark. What role do you think Griezmann will play during this Clasico? And we'll talk about it. And then 2 from Jose saying Messi has stayed, but who's won more or lost more, Barcelona, Messi or City? This Messi is an interesting Messi, the Messi we're seeing at the moment, because if you count, I think I heard it from Bruno Alemanya the weekend from Cadena Ser, that he's had a look at the last 19 games since the confinement and has realized that Messi has only scored 7 goals in that period, and 4 of them were penalties, so only 3 in open play. That's not normal. That is not normal, and it may be the lack of fans, it really is the circumstances and the situation. He is in a bit of a limbo. He wanted to go and he's not allowed, he hasn't been allowed to leave. All right, to get that your head round again, to just be leading a team that is in transition, with everybody looking at the like of Trincao and Ansu Fati and Pedri as the solution, so at least the ones that actually really make you want to see Barcelona, and you not knowing your role fully, or not knowing what you have to do, as you also have to adapt. I'm talking about Messi. You also have to adapt to Griezmann, who hasn't found his role yet, to Coutinho, who's using a little bit of the space that Messi uses. He's been asked to be the number 9, the false 9, or at least to be in a position to actually be closer to the box. All that has to requires a time of adaptation. New players as well. Luis Suarez gone. All that means that Messi has to go through his own period of mourning, if you like, because he's still at Barcelona, when him and his family had made the decision of going away, and little by little accept his role, whatever that role is that Koeman wants him to play. But Koeman has already, in the press conference before the Champions League, he's very brave in these press conferences and openly discussed things like, I think it was after the draw against Sevilla, had a go at Griezmann and at De Jong, saying that it's just simply not what we need, not good enough. And in the press conference before the Champions League, he talked about Messi and said that actually he's not at the level that he wants, but of course he will come. I'm not sure it's a good idea to be accumulating enemies, if you like, or at least accusations or darts directed to players at this stage of the season. Not sure, because it is difficult circumstances that everybody knows what they are, and as I say, the time to adapt to it in a football without fans, which is not normal, obviously, but it affects performances, no doubt. And I spoke to many coaches about this. At that time, perhaps you should be less the general, the black and white person, and try to bring everybody in. At the moment, quite clearly, the likes of Griezmann doesn't feel important, and he's the first substitution out of the stars. The Dembele is still confused about what he has to do, and that's Dembele's fault more than the team or the manager. That's always been the case. I don't think he understands the game that much. Griezmann still not finding his place in the team, and Coutinho doing well, yes, but can do better, I imagine. And Messi still also trying to adapt to it. The whole situation requires a little bit of love, I think, but Koeman has gone for it. What we've seen is a Barcelona of up and downs. Good games against Villarreal, for instance, but then against Getafe, they only recovered possession 3 times in the Getafe half. 3 times. Where is the intensity? Where is the organization? This is so important for Barcelona these days, to pressure high and get the ball, because if they had to attack a team that defends compactly and deeply, it's becoming more and more difficult with the lack of goals of Messi, and nobody else seems to score goals. Pedri did really well in between the lines, and for as long as he has that energy and enthusiasm, he really has to be an important part of the team. Until that drops, he's 17, it will happen. But meanwhile, this is the Barcelona that we're finding. It's easy to attack them, very easy to attack them, and they don't score as many goals. They score 2 goals per game, which is below the normal average for Barcelona. How about Real Madrid? Well, let's go to a stat. They stole 2 balls in Cadiz's half. I think it's more alarming what we're seeing at Real Madrid, because at Barcelona is a new situation. Players that came and went. At Real Madrid, the same players, and they've got to be asked to also go at full motion, 100%, do everything. At some point, they have to start with that, the same way that they started after the defeat against Mallorca a year ago. They turned that around, they turned their mentality. Of course, everybody knows what happened. They were knocked out in the Champions League, but in the league, they won the league. And they won it by being the best defensive Real Madrid of the last 3 decades. But those defensive stats were down to the collective work, and we're not seeing any of that. Some players look completely out of form or not interested. Isco, certainly, Marcelo as well. The plan B that Zidane has used so often really hasn't made any impact. And meanwhile, they just score 6 goals this season, I think. And if it's not Benzema, again, nobody seems to be scoring enough. And the best goal scorer at the moment is Sergio Ramos. So that's the Real Madrid we're finding. That's the Barcelona we're finding. And the Clasico is around the corner. So winning this one will give you a little bit of peace. Losing it will get you into trouble, as always. But I do feel that this season is one that Atletico Madrid and Sevilla especially should take advantage of. It could be their season. If they're there or thereabouts in the last 5-6 weeks of the season, who knows? They could even win the league, because this Barcelona and this Real Madrid are not at their best. That's it for now. And as I said, there will be all the stuff that I'll be doing closer to the end of the week, on Friday and on Saturday itself, on the day of the match. Remember to have a look at the Pure Football podcast that has new episodes coming up this week. And I've got a surprise for you, a new format of it. See if you like it. And meanwhile, keep well and keep safe. Bye-bye.